Well, hello, I'm Dom, and I'm the host of Horror House, True Crime and the Macabre. Horror House, True Crime and the Macabre is a delectable delight of true crime and the macabre, sprinkled with just the right amount of that dry British humour. Horror House can be found anywhere that you listen to podcasts and is on Instagram and Twitter at horrorhouse_pod and on Facebook at horrorhousepod. Episodes are released weekly on a Friday or as weekly as studying full-time and working part-time allows. So why don't you make a brew and come join me as I weave tales of horror and discomfort. Until next time, stay spooky.
Hey guys!
And we are together.
We are, once again.
Surprise!
I had to take a sip of my green drink.
Yeah.
So, what's new?
No, not what's new with me. What's new with you?
Well,
How's B-Town? How's life?
Branson is just everything you could ask for. You got the blue hairs, you got the Branson strip.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a blasty blast.
Right?
No, I loving my job.
Yeah.
Running in sand all day.
Right?
Yeah, no.
Dancing and singing and all the fun things.
Flashing my skirt like this. It's just living the dream.
Yeah, so for those of you that don't know, she moved back to Branson, and she has a job
at Dolly Parton Stampede. I'm a dancing in hoedowns, and it's a blast. So come see me and don't ask me for tickets.
Yep. Right. I tried and she didn't give them to me. So
True. Actually, that's a true story.
That's really all I wanted to talk about was
my job.
Life.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
well,
just everything about Cadence.
Just chasing chickens, corralling horses. Hoedowning.
She's a professional hoedowner.
I'm also front and center hoedowner.
She is.
So everybody just look out. Honestly, I don't even know what my life is right now. Sometimes I reflect, and after about 30 seconds of reflecting about where I am and what I'm doing, I'm like, let's move on. Let's think about the weather.
You're
something.
like, wait, do I really want to do this?
Yeah, right. No, it's fun. It's just different than anything I've ever done in my life, and I think most performers probably would say the same thing.
Yeah,
but it's a fun show. It's Branson's most popular show, actually. So
she's kind of like the big thing in
kind
town.
of a big deal.
So
look for my face on billboards, guys.
Oh, that's great.
I'm a cowgirl now. But
what
that's
else?
it. I don't know what else is going on. Honestly, nothing.
Yeah,
that's really it.
I know.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, we're boring today.
Yeah,
sorry, guys.
Sorry, we don't have a lot of news, so I guess we'll just get right in it.
Also, if you guys see me itching my head, there's a lot of sand in my hair. And I do wash it, but I think it just gets so dry from the sand. It's just itchy.
Sticking to your scalp.
Yeah, I'm basically part sand. 75% water, as we learned in the moon episode.
We did.
And then 10% sand, which leaves 15% for blood and organs.
Everything else, yeah. That's what she is. In case y'all wanted to know.
Water, sand, blood, and organs.
That's it. That's it. So our something spice.
Ooh, it's something new today.
Yeah, we are drinking mimosas. So we have some La Marca Prosecco.
I'm excited.
Yeah, I know.
Alexis heard me complain about this all morning, but last night I did some binge eating, but just strictly with pretzels. And it was
what kind of pretzels?
Dots pretzels, honey
best.
Mustard, and
yeah,
I feel so disgusting and sick.
Yeah.
So now I'm drinking alcohol.
Now she's drinking mimosas. I mean, you have vitamin C, so it should help you. You'll be fine.
Testing your ratio. No, you nailed it.
Did I?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So that's our something spiked.
Yeah, so drink along, of course, if you are 21 and up. Also, we are talking about Dennis Rader, aka BTK. Before we do our disclaimer, do you know our drinking word today?
I'm thinking I'm gonna go with something like generic.
Okay.
Like the word, like torture. Would that work?
Yeah, that would work.
Torture, or maybe, I don't know. What are your thoughts? I didn't really know.
So BTK, bind, torture, kill.
Okay, so that's
just,
probably a good one.
Yeah.
Okay.
That'll work. So if you hear the word torture, take a sip of your drink. If you are drinking an alcoholic beverage, be prepared to get drunk.
Woo!
So our videos and podcasts are for entertainment purposes. All information discussed was found on the internet. Keep in mind we will talk all things sinister that may not be suitable for all audiences. Viewer and listener discretion is advised.
I'm so ready. Classic.
It is a
Classic.
It is such a wild
Oh,
story.
yeah.
Like,
Yes.
it's so
Also, this might be a
crazy.
two-parter for you guys.
Yeah.
We don't know yet.
Probably will, but yes.
Okay.
So, Dennis Lynn Rader, aka BTK, bind, torture, kill. First
Woo!
drink of the episode. Is an American serial killer who killed more than 10 people. Well, he only says he killed 10 people, but investigators think he killed more.
Okay.
In the Wichita, Kansas area between 1974 and 1991. Dennis is a Pisces. He is still alive, FYI.
I don't think I knew that.
Yep, he's still in prison.
Oh, shit.
Dennis is a Pisces. I thought this was very interesting. Ranker.com says Pisces serial killers are known for being scatterbrained, aimless, and indecisive, but they also have a very large, mysterious imagination, which we've kind of talked a lot about that with Pisces anyway. As you know, your lady, that Delphine, huge, mysterious, fucked up imagination.
Oh, yeah.
It also said Pisces are imprinted by those who they surround themselves with, and violent, problematic habits tend to follow them from childhood into adulthood.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, which is really weird when we talk about Dennis's childhood and everything. It also says they tend to go through multiple career paths in life. And the Pisces that are born in March instead of February typically have unstable professional lives who hop from job to job while they commit their crimes.
That makes sense because am I on the Pisces Aries cusp?
You are.
And I definitely hop from job to job.
But not while she's committing crimes.
Not while I'm murdering people. Just murdering
like
my job opportunities.
Crazy life happening.
Yeah.
You act out with career changes. She's like, I'm going to be a clown today. Tomorrow I want to be a banker.
And then stampede.
Then I want to be a professional hoedowner.
I should have put that on Facebook as
You
my
really should.
employment.
Yeah, you should
professional
say
hoedown.
professional hoedowner. Oh my god. I also want to talk about a little bit more just Pisces in general, not just the ones that are serial killers. So outside of Ranker.com, it says Pisces are highly influenced by other people, like we kind of talked about. They tend to work independently or be independent, but they can become obsessive in a very short period of time. Active imagination, so their minds are constantly imagining crazy creative visionaries, and they daydream about good things and bad, but tend to act on the negative when daydreaming about the negative. So
Wow.
with Dennis Rader, with BTK, this is key to him. Like all of these, he is 100% a Pisces with all the negative traits.
Yep.
So
We're going to call him the Dennis Downer. Is that a Debbie Downer?
the Dennis Downer. Oh my god. The torture downer.
Yes.
Right.
Drink. Oh. Didn't say it.
Got ya. So Dennis was born March 9th, 1945 to Dorothea May Rader and William Elvin Rader. He was the oldest of 4 boys, born in Pittsburgh, Kansas, which, as you know, is only 30 minutes away from your hometown.
Yep. Go Gorillas.
Yeah, right. Funny story. I dated a guy from Pittsburgh, Kansas, and
Did you really?
yeah, I did. He was a little crazy. So,
What if I know him?
there's probably like something in the water out there. I don't know. That makes people kind of crazy. If you're from Pittsburgh, Kansas, let us know. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Are you crazy?
Just stay away.
Yeah, just stay away. Yeah. Anyway, so his father was a Marine. He served in World War II. And he later worked for the Kansas Electric Department. Mom, Dorothea, was a bookkeeper for a local grocery store, so an accountant. Mm-hmm. Both parents worked a lot. Dennis said later in life, that his parents paid very little attention to him and his siblings and were never home. So he felt that his parents, but particularly his mom, resented him and the other kids, which turned to resentment to her.
Yeah.
So, it is said, though, and I've got to do air quotes on this, that he grew up in a normal home with normal parents and being a normal kid. And that's literally what everything talks about. Every research, all research that you do, every story that you listen to says he was just a normal kid doing normal things in a normal family. So his childhood is such a mystery when it comes to being like, why did he become the way that he is?
Yeah, in Pittsburgh, I don't know what it was like during the time he was growing up, but it's just like a small college farm town.
Yeah.
Like it's not like
Other
a
than the
city where there's
college,
like a lot of
nothing there.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of room for getting in trouble.
Right.
Unless it's like, I guess,
cow tipping
or like meth.
Right. So, shortly after, birth, a couple years later, they moved to Wichita, Kansas. So he primarily was raised in Wichita, Kansas. Sorry, not just Kansas, but
the entire state.
Yes. And, all the research again said that he was a normal kid. He was part of Boy Scouts. He was heavily involved in his church with his parents and his family. And so it's kind of crazy. He ended up going to Riverview Elementary School, and at school he was kind of subpar. Like, his grades were C/D average. He didn't fail anything, but he wasn't the smartest kid. He was very introverted and withdrawn. Didn't really do any sports, didn't have a lot of friends. And at the age of 10 years old, he developed a fascination in domination, bondage, and torture.
Okay, wait. You're 10.
Mm-hmm.
So who is he?
That is the $1 million question.
No one knows what he was binding, or...
Well, he wasn't binding anything at this time. He just grew this fascination.
Oh.
He would clip, like, BDSM, like, pornographic photos of, like, women that were bonded or in, like, rape, like, fantasy-type pornographic magazines.
Yikes.
At 10 years old.
Porn is traumatizing to any child, whether it's like, you even see like your parents kissing at 10 and you are...
Or if you walk in on your parents, you're like,
oh,
what did I just see?
Did you ever walk in on your parents?
Yes.
Did you really?
Yeah.
I never have.
Oh,
I
yeah.
never did.
Yeah, it's gross. Or I walked in on my sister once.
Oh, wait, I think you told me that story. Yeah.
Yeah. Forever remember that in my mind.
God.
It's a terrible memory. I wish
But
I could black it out.
Can you imagine, like, stumbling upon something like that?
As a
at
10-year-old? Yeah.
I wouldn't even know what I was looking at, except that it was bad.
Right, and that's kind of the $1 million question. It's like, why and how did he grow this obsession at such a young age?
Yeah.
So, Dr. Tony Ruark, a forensic psychologist who interviewed Dennis in prison, said, quoted, "If Rader was completely honest, which he is not, I'm sure that we would find some sort of childhood event that Rader immediately associated with feelings of sexuality. Somehow, very early on, Rader encountered an event where he immediately linked sexual pleasure with watching a live creature suffer and die. And after that first encounter, Rader probably began to work very hard to nurture those feelings.
I'm thinking it had to be something in the church or Boy Scouts.
Or even family.
Or family. Probably the Boy Scouts, though.
I know, that's kind of what I was thinking too. But we'll talk about that in a little bit because it might not be that. So the only thing remotely that I could find that he did see in the household was his mom one time was like reaching into like the side of the couch like to get something that fell through, and her ring got caught and she couldn't get her hand out and she was like panicking. And Dennis was there. He was like 10, 11 years old. And he says at that time, he was aroused seeing his mom suffer, like, and kind of be scared to get her hand out.
Oh, that is not where I thought that was going.
Yes.
I thought you were going to say, like, she pulled porn out of, like, the couch or something.
No, he was aroused in seeing how she acted. But obviously, he then, like, went to help her, and she got her hand out, and she was fine. Like, nothing was broken.
Yeah.
Nothing was hurt. But that is literally the only thing remotely, like, in his childhood that I found. But if you think about that, something had to happen before that.
Something major had to have happened.
Exactly. For him to just see that
all
and get aroused.
Suddenly got...
Yeah. So...
All of a sudden. Got it. I was like, why did that sound weird?
You're almost there. Oh, you're good. Dennis also admitted at this age, too, he was torturing, killing, and hanging small animals.
Ooh. Well, that he definitely learned from the Boy Scouts, because how the fuck does a 10-year-old know how to make a noose?
Right. Tie knots.
Just saying.
A little bit later as a teen, he grew an obsession in cross-dressing. So he would dress in women's clothing, spy on women through their windows. He became a peeping Tom. And the women that he would spy on, he would steal their clothes and their bras and their panties and wear them at home, watch himself in a mirror, and masturbate.
Wait, how old is he?
Teenager.
Yeah, that's a red flag.
Huge red flag.
Ugh.
Yeah. 1963, he graduated from Wichita Heights High School. He worked at the local grocery store that his mom was the bookkeeper at. Then 3 years later, he joined the Air Force. He was kind of like stagnant after high school and was kind of bored.
Yeah.
So his dad was like, join the military. So he joined the Air Force. And also, he didn't want to be drafted into the Korean War or the Vietnam War too. So he was like, I'll just join the Air Force so that way I can kind of get a job and not have to go into combat, but can do something else in the military. While in the Air Force, though, he continued to be a peeping Tom and break into women's houses and steal their bra and panties and continue that masturbation cycle. But as he got older, he started bonding himself. So he would like wrap a noose or wrap a rope or something around his neck to kind of like choke him or bond one of his arms. So and masturbate.
Makes me think of Quagmire from Family Guy.
Right.
Like you... Anyways.
Yeah.
Listen, no judgment on your kinks once again, but I would panic. I would panic.
Yeah.
No vulnerability here.
Yeah.
No,
no.
Leave me out of it.
Yeah, exactly.
I like to be in control at all times.
I do not want to be tied down in any way, shape, or form. I would have a panic attack. So... May 22nd, 1971, he got married to his wife, Paula. They were heavily involved in their church, and they ended up having 2 kids, a boy and a girl. 1973, 2 years later, he enrolled in Wichita State University. He studied criminal justice because he wanted to be a police officer.
Why? I know why he's doing it, but I feel like the military thing is super common with murderers and serial killers, and I'm like,
yeah, I know.
And now he's doing this on top of it.
It's like you've killed and tortured animals. You are being a peeping Tom. You're doing these things. It's like, what makes you think that you would be a good police officer?
Well, because he could get away with it. Mm-hmm. Like, he's going to learn all these new skills. And
right.
I'm sure, I don't know, but I'm assuming back in the 70s, it's not like they're really being diligent about, like, mental health checks with who's becoming a cop.
No, not at all.
So,
I don't even think mental health was really a big thing.
It's like, let's do a psych evaluation before we, like, hand over a gun and give people, like, the rights to, like, protect, quote, their community.
Right. While in college, he worked at a company called Cessna. It was an airplane manufacturer company, but he was let go at the end of that year. They kind of just didn't need him anymore. So he slipped into a very deep, dark depression where his negative, like, bind, torture, kill thoughts overwhelmed him. He became obsessed even more with BDSM pornography, and he even named his penis Sparky at this time.
Sparky.
Yeah.
I want to know how that conversation starts. Like, you know, like, do you just wake up one day and you're like, you know what, little guy? You need a name. I'm so sick of calling you my penis. You're more than just my penis. You're your own person.
Yeah, and better yet, your name's going to be Sparky.
Or did he, like, test out names? Like, one day he's, like, looking at himself and he's like, Greg. No, Greg's not working.
Greg isn't working.
The Terminator. No, that's not working either. Sparky. Yes. That's the name. That's it. God.
Dude, I don't know.
Well, this is playing into his Pisces thing for sure, like being obsessed with like the negative aspect of his thoughts.
Yeah, and the creative, weird imagination.
Yeah,
and
like
sparking on it. Yeah, it's very, very strange.
Men, leave us a comment. What leads you to name your penis? And two, why? Why that name?
Yeah.
Let us know.
Yeah, let us know. We are curious.
Your creative thoughts.
So the following year, 1974, he got a job at ADT installing security systems.
I knew that.
Yep. Rumor says he was installing security systems for people who were worried about a serial killer in the area. Now, again, he hadn't actually started killing yet. Beginning of 1974, he does. But as throughout his entire career, customers were like, yeah, we're getting this installed because there's a serial killer
It's
out
the
there.
70s. We gotta watch our backs.
Yep, and needless did they know that the serial killer that was installing the security system...
That's so scary. So he's military, he's police, he's security guy.
Wants to be a police
officer.
No,
he's like all the things that like murderers should not be.
Nothing.
I think next on the list would be like a doctor and a teacher.
Yeah, right.
And a preacher.
Right. Well, we're getting there with the preacher one.
Right.
Anyway. So, January 15th, 1974, he committed his first murders. I'm going out with a bang. Because he went out with a bang for his first murders. Ended up stalking a family, and I'm not going to say their name because apparently it's like a really big deal with using their name from what I read. Even though their name is in every article.
Like they sue people? Is that what you're saying? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Sued people in the family, like, just, you know.
Yeah.
It's just not a good deal. Anyway, so he stalked the family, but primarily the mom and the 11-year-old daughter for weeks. He would follow them, watch them go to the store, to school, you know, whatever the case had been. He had what was called a hit kit that he brought with him. This kit contained a gun, a hood, cords, tape, rope, plastic bags, gloves, and other tools to be able to break into a home. He was planning on doing it later in the afternoon, but he was watching them, and at 8:20 in the morning, he's like, "Fuck it, I gotta do it. I can't wait any longer."
Oh,
so,
jeez, 8:20 in the morning.
Yep, he entered the backyard, cut the telephone line, and broke into the home. And he had planned on just killing the mom and the daughter. But whenever he arrived, the husband and 9-year-old son were home as well. He pulled his gun out. He pulled his gun out and told the family that he was a criminal on the run. And he was just looking for money, food, and a getaway car. And he convinced the family to let him tie them up. He said, "I need to tie you up to make it look like I robbed you. I'm not going to hurt you. Just let me tie you up." So the dad, who was a former professional boxer,
oh God,
allowed it. And the mom practiced judo, so she was kind of a badass.
Yeah.
They allowed it. He strangled the husband. Then he strangled the son. The mom pled for, I'll do anything, whatever. He strangled her, and then he had the 11-year-old daughter go down to the basement where he killed her and hung her from a metal pipe from the ceiling.
Man.
Yeah.
What is with that? I feel like this is the third story
I know.
that we've talked about daughter, basement, metal pipe hanging.
I know. I don't know. It's fucked up.
Ugh.
The mother, too, worked at a prior company, Coleman, that Dennis had worked at. So that's how he knew of them, too, and he grew an obsession with her from years back. Investigators say that there was semen found in the house, but no sign of sexual assault, just the tremendous torture that he did to their bodies.
Man.
And I'll drink to that in a second. The family had 3 more children. They were older. They came home and found their family dead at the scene, obviously called 911. Dennis was known to take souvenirs, shall I say, from the houses, too. So he not only took underwear and stuff from the girl and the woman, but he also took the husband's watch.
Man, what do they call those? Trophies?
Yeah. Prizes, whatever. Later in an interview, Dennis was asked why he did what he did to the daughter. Like, why couldn't you just strangle her like everybody else?
Yeah.
Why did you have to
go the extra mile?
Go the extra mile, right? And he responded, quoted, "I thought it would be interesting to watch her die."
Oh,
yeah.
Sick.
It is sick. It is. So, fast forward 3 months later, April 1974, he stalked a 21-year-old woman who was also a prior Coleman employee, broke into her house, wasn't expecting her brother to be home, so he kind of sucks at planning these things because other people are there. Pulled out his gun, he shot the brother, but the brother actually lived and escaped the house. He was going to get help.
Oh,
but Dennis tortured the woman, stabbed her to death, and she died.
So he, the brother got away, like, before, during this, or like fake dead and then got,
Yeah, to try to go and get help.
Wow, and the balls for him to continue doing what he's doing.
Yeah.
Despite having someone escape. Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Late 1974, Dennis wrote a letter to the Wichita Police Department, but he didn't deliver the letter directly to the police department. He put it in a book in the Wichita Public Library, and this letter stated, quoted, "The code words for me will be bind them, torture them, kill them," and then he signed it with BTK.
I wonder, like, by placing it in the book, I mean, it's obviously all a game.
It's a game.
Did he just stick it back on the shelf and, like, hope that somebody found it, or, like, turned it in and was like, here,
put it back on the shelf?
What the heck? How did anyone ever find that?
They did. I don't know.
Must have been a popular book.
Must have been. In this letter, he also confessed to killing that family, too. And this is a game that he plays for literally 40 years. Actually, like 41 years. Which is wild. Because this is 74, and he doesn't get caught till 2005. So.
Ugh.
Yeah. I know.
How?
I know. So, continuing between 1974 and 1977, he killed 2 more women the exact same way. He would, stalk them. He would break into their home. He would torture them. He would bind them. He would kill them. And then he would be on his way.
Jeez.
So, talking about his MOs, particularly women. Mm-hmm. It didn't really matter the age, and you'll hear here in a minute why, but it was from 11 years old up until like 60. He would stalk the women. He would then break into their homes, bind, torture, kill, as he would say. He would steal the women's undergarments and other things. He would then dress up as the women to remember what he did to them, and then obviously masturbate to all of this, binding himself. He never left any DNA or evidence that would link him to any one of the crimes. I'm going to take a drink before I read all this. A psychiatrist that interviewed him while he was in prison says, his name is Terrence G. Leary, Dr. Leary, quoted, he was terribly cruel to animals as a child. He also engaged in mutilations at some degree. He would torture to a large degree all of his victims. Intense torture. Really, really cruel torture. And he would get some close to death and then revive them so they could live this horrific experience again. He would do that simultaneously. It's not only a very evil, heinous act, but it is driven by someone who is exposed to hate and evil that then can be used. So something is hidden here. This is a puzzle. Not all is meeting the eye here. So I have like 3 tortures. But.
Yeah. Wow. The whole like hold things at near death only to revive them and do it over again. That is sick and twisted.
It is sick and twisted. And we're going to talk a little bit about more so why and how did he learn these behaviors?
Yeah.
How did he learn these traits? What happened? If he came from a normal family and was a normal kid, no normal fucking human being does this.
No, there's some trauma
right. And other than like the animal.
Deep, I mean, there is a possibility too that he did come from a good family, but had some deep-seated mental problems that would have been undiagnosed or something, which back in those days could have totally have happened. But still, this is intense. Like, if it's mental, if it's all mental, then it's like the worst of the worst.
Oh, absolutely. Like, absolutely. It's just crazy.
Man. Oh, I hate that.
I know. So in 1978, he sent a letter to KAKE television station, like a local news station there in Wichita, claiming the responsibility of everyone that he has killed thus far. So 7 people in total in 4 years. He demanded media attention, but he never said Dennis Rader. He would always say BTK. Mm-hmm. Said that BTK was a serial killer in Wichita. He wrote a poem too it was called "Oh Death to Nancy," which was one of his victims, which is fucked up. Which is a parody to a folk song called "Oh Death," and you can look that song up. Just look up folk song "Oh Death," and you'll kind of hear the tune. And you can look up that poem too. It's pretty graphic and it's very long, so that's why I didn't put it in here. But he also claimed to be driven by Factor X, and if you don't know what Factor X is, it also motivated the other killers like Jack the Ripper, Son of Sam, and the Hillside Strangler. Basically, Factor X, they say, is like a genetic blood disorder that creates a predator. Like, it's a mutation of DNA that creates a predator, and they blame God. So a lot of these serial killers like Son of Sam, Jack the Ripper, and even BTK are blaming God for creating them the way that they are, and essentially calling Factor X like their demon possession.
So Factor X isn't a scientific thing.
I mean, it kind of is. There's research saying that there is a DNA blood mutation, but it doesn't make people crazy, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah. But well, it's kind of like saying there are people who are just simply depressed that commit murder.
Exactly.
But it doesn't mean that was like scientifically, because there's obviously millions of people with depression who don't do any harm to themselves or to others.
Exactly.
So it's like almost kind of blaming a DNA deformity or something.
There was a study that I read that it did say that people that claim to have this Factor X, like blood mutation disease, tend to be criminals in some sort of way. So it didn't say that they were violent criminals, but they do commit crimes. So I thought that was a little interesting because, you know, here you have And I know a lot of these serial killers, they're all master manipulators. They're all narcissists. You know, all they think about is themselves. But maybe there is something wrong with them. So.
Man, yikes.
I know.
That's deep. But it sounds like in their explanation, it's more of like it didn't sound like the whole blaming God and everything aspect. I was like, wait.
Well, Dennis.
Like a real thing? Or is this like
Dennis was blaming God. The others were just saying, like, God made me this way type of thing. Okay. Like, Dennis is blaming God, and we'll kind of talk a little bit more about that. But 1979, he graduated from Wichita State with his bachelor's in criminal justice. So, still in school this whole time. He did it, right? Again, he wanted to be a police officer, even though he didn't, like, fulfill that dream of his. And fast forward to the next year in the early 80s, 80-81, a woman filed a restraining order against him for stalking her. Police were like, hey, cut it out, leave her alone, quit following her type of thing. He was like, listen, I'm not following her. I don't give a shit. So anyway, I have a degree in criminal justice. Whatever. I want to be a police officer. Right. But they didn't put two and two together because he never left any evidence or literally anything to make him be a suspect, which is wild. Fast forward to April 27th, 1985. So 8 years after his last murder. 8 years after his last murder. Which, granted, I think I read in 1978 his daughter was born, which was his first child. So that would kind of make sense timing-wise that, like...
Well, a lot of these serial killers that go not caught, when they have families, they take a break from it. Because the Golden State Killer was like that, too.
Right.
He had, like, a 10-year gap, but he also had kids and, like, a job change and, like, other things to occupy his
mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he murdered his neighbor, literally next door neighbor, in her home. She was 58 years old. He obviously bound her, tortured her, and then he killed her, and he took her body to his church, where he was the president of the church.
I wonder, this guy is clearly, like, top-notch narcissist. Most of them are, but this guy is, like, flaunting it.
He is.
I wonder how these guys react, like, when they see, like, the news. Especially if it's, like, across the street. Like, how do you watch the news with your wife and kids? Like, do you act shocked? Do you act brave? Are you, popping Sparky's popping up to play? Like,
Sparky is ready to play.
He's like,
Sparky's ready to spark.
He's like, down boy, we can't do it in front of the family. But, like,
I know.
There was one, and I forget who it was, like, he'd watch himself on TV and be, like, interested, and people thought that was weird.
Yeah.
You remember what that was? Was it Golden State Killer?
I think it was Golden State.
But surely some of them put on their acting face, and they're like, oh, we gotta make sure our doors are locked at night and take care of the kids. Our neighbor just got killed.
Right.
I don't know.
I know, right? So he took her body to the church. He photographed her nude body in various bondage positions.
And when she's 58.
Yeah, I know.
It's so sad.
I know, it's so sad. He, at the church, and again, like, this just tells you how premeditated and planned he was. He stored, like, black plastic, like, tarps at the church and other materials to prep for this murder and to prep to get rid of her body. So it's rumored that he planned to kill her for over a year. Like, he plotted every second of this. He wrapped her body in the tarp, and then he dumped her body in a remote location, like in a ditch. But he called this plan Project Cookie.
Ew.
I know.
Why? Because she's an old lady?
Maybe.
Well, she's 58.
Maybe
she's
she
not
made him cookies. I know, that was a terrible bad joke, but...
Sorry, I was burping too at the same time. So, maybe she made him cookies.
I didn't read, I tried to look up why he called it Project Cookie, but I couldn't find it.
Maybe she had, like, a nickname.
Maybe her nickname was Cookie.
Miss Cookie.
Yeah.
That's kind of strippery.
It is kind of strippery. She could have been a stripper. Maybe that's why.
Maybe she was a stripper.
Maybe that's why. Who knows? Fast forward to the next year, he killed a 28-year-old mother of 2. Again, same thing, bind, torture, kill. All the same things. Took photographs of her body and kept them.
Did you say he took pictures of the body in the church or in her home?
In the church.
Wow.
In the church.
Jeez.
Asking for forgiveness at the same damn time. Anyway,
I wonder if he got it.
Apparently, according to the Bible, the God will forgive. So, I don't know. 1988, he wrote a letter talking about another murder of a family involving 3 family members. This letter, again, was written to the Wichita Police Department. He stated he did not kill this family, but credited the killer, stating that they did an admirable work.
No, you
Holy
still got
shit.
it wrong.
Admirable work.
Admirable?
Admirable.
Or admiral. Admirable.
Yeah. Admirable. God,
Word of the day.
Admirable. God, admirable work. And then he signed it BTK.
Wow.
And when he would sign these, he would say BTK, but he would also put like bind, torture, kill.
Like as a reminder.
Yeah, as a reminder, because people already didn't know. But he credited that killer's work.
But it was him.
Mm-mm.
Oh, the other. Oh,
him.
yeah.
It was the other guy.
Sorry, I was still stuck on the 58-year-old cookie.
Yeah, cookie. 3 years later, January 19th, 1991, his final victim was a 62-year-old woman. He obviously stalked her, broke into her home. He strangled her as well. Bind, torture, kill, all the same things. That was his final victim in 1991.
91, and by the 90s we had DNA testing.
We did, but there was no DNA that connected him to this.
Wow.
So, all of these cases, all of these murders were cold cases. They had no idea who BTK was. Mm-hmm. They knew of BTK. They got all these letters. They're like, this guy wants to be caught. It's like a game to him.
Yeah.
It's like the movie, The Zodiac Killer.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And, you know, that's obviously a different killer. It's
yeah.
not BTK related, but they kind of did the same thing. They signed it. They said what they did. They said where it was. They said all the details. But nobody could figure it out.
Yeah, it was all a puzzle, game, code.
It was.
Poems or whatever.
Yep. And we're going to talk a lot about that. But I do want to talk about him first as a dad and a husband because this is just fucking wild. So his daughter, Carrie, says he was a family man. He was the president of the church, as we obviously already know. He was a Boy Scout troop leader and an Air Force veteran. So this is why I don't think if he's going to lead Boy Scouts as a father, especially for his son, if he was abused, why would he put his son through that? Because he was a loving, caring father.
But he could protect his son if he was there.
That is true. I didn't think about that.
He could protect his son and not abuse his son. Or
not let the abuse happen if he knows. Because apparently the Boy Scouts is...
If you think about like the manipulation side of things, it's like, well, my son was there. I couldn't have done all these things. Like, my son was there as proof. Yeah. And I don't know.
Yeah.
A lot could go wrong there.
A lot could go wrong. Daughter Carrie also says, quote, if we had an inkling that my father had harmed anyone, let alone murdered anyone, let alone 10 people, we would have gone screaming out the door to the police station. We were literally living our normal life. Normal, that's the key word for this family. We looked like a normal American family because we were a normal family. And then everything depended on us. And she said that she communicated with her father whenever he was arrested, just via letters. But still to this day, she's never seen him in prison.
Well, I don't blame her. But I'm too curious of a person. I would have to. Like, I'd be like, sit down and tell me everything.
Well, right. And if you have such a great relationship with your father before.
Yeah.
Like, I was looking up, like, pictures of him and his kids. Mm-hmm. And he's there all the time. I mean, there's pictures from infancy to when she's graduating college and her brother's, all of that. And it's just so crazy how engaged of a person he was to his family. A different, complete person, and then a fucking monster to these 10 people that he murdered.
Yeah, but I feel like that's the thing, is that I feel like there's a lot of serial killers like that.
There are.
They're just so
for
good at lying.
Yeah.
And they're so narcissistic, and it's almost like they've got these insane sociopathic tendencies where they can put those feelings aside to be a completely different person.
Right. It's just so wild.
As a kid who's, I mean, we're obviously, there's people fascinated with true crime, but it's a different thing, like, if it's somebody that you like your dad, or your grandpa, or, like, someone you grew up with, like, it would be really hard to look them in the face ever again without just having an absolute mental breakdown, or rage, or anything else.
All the above, all the emotions.
So
I can't even imagine.
Yeah. But please turn in your family members if you find out they're murdering people. Like, that's the right thing to do.
Absolutely.
And I do think it's telling that because they stayed away from him after having a good childhood, that it kind of shows like they really didn't have any idea.
Right.
Because if they did, they'd probably come off as a little more loving. And approach like...
They're like, oh, Dad was kind of a weirdo.
Yeah.
Not
so
really
we visit
surprised.
him in prison every 5 years or something.
Right.
No.
Right.
No.
So fast forward. So we were talking about 1991. We are jumping a whole, what would it be, 13 years to 2004. Okay. This is when all the crazy mind games and the letters and all of that. But I have to document it all and talk about it all because it's just so fascinating. So 2004, all of BTK's murders were again considered cold cases. He initiated communication to the local media at this time. And again, he doesn't even get arrested until February 2005. So an entire year, he is just antagonizing Wichita police. March 2004, the Wichita Eagle, which was just like a local newspaper, received a letter stating that they were Bill Thomas Kilman, so BTK, and this person claimed to have murdered a woman whose case was a cold case from 1986. In the letter, he included pictures of the woman being bonded and tortured and the crime scene, as well as her driver's license.
Oh, shit.
May 2004, KAKE station, again the local news station in Wichita, received a letter with chapter headings, and it said, "The BTK story" is what he wanted the book to be called. There were fake IDs included in this, as well as different word puzzles throughout the letter. Mm-hmm. June 9th, same year, a package was found taped to a stop sign at a corner in Wichita. It had graphic descriptions of the family of 4 that he had murdered his first murder, and a sketch labeled "The Sexual Thrill is My Bill." Also was a chapter listing of this proposed book that he wanted written about him, the BTK story.
Wow. That is bold.
It is bold, and it just gets better. July, so again, 2 months later, a package was dropped in the return slot of the poor public library, Wichita's
this library needs to, like, examine every book that comes into its facility.
So in the return slot, there was a package, and it had a letter in it claiming that BTK was responsible for a 19-year-old boy's death in Argonia, Kansas. However, the claim was fake because the boy committed suicide. So, at this time, he is not getting the media attention that he wants.
Right, so he's like taking
just
anything.
Fishing for anything that he could possibly trying to get attention for.
Can you imagine, one, you've already committed murder, but now
you're
it's
like
not
wanting
enough,
to get
so
caught.
you like want to admit to other things, other murders or deaths.
Yeah, it's so weird. It's so weird. So October, a couple months later, a manila envelope was dropped into a UPS box in Wichita. It had cards of BDSM images of children, which is fucked up, and a poem threatening the lead investigator's life. There was also a false autobiography that he had written about BTK's life in there as well.
What the fuck? First off, and also, I keep thinking this whole time, like, he's also functioning as a family man.
Yeah.
So where the fuck is he finding this time?
Right.
To write all of this shit? Like, what was his excuse? Oh, I'm working down in my shop? Like...
Yeah. I don't know.
Oh my god.
It's just wild. Hey, at least he's not killing people. He's just antagonizing the police.
Yeah, that's true.
December, so 2 months later, Wichita police received another package from the BTK killer. This time the package was found in a park. It was left on a park bench. It had another driver's license of a woman that he had murdered and a doll, like a little doll that like kids play with, that was bound but also had a plastic bag over its head, which was the same way that they found the woman's body.
Oh my gosh, that's so fucked up. And I feel like things like that are traceable, like the doll.
You would think, but there was no DNA.
Well, I know, but
like who bought this?
Who bought the doll? What store did this come from?
Yeah.
Okay, check every. Let's say it's Walmart. Check every Walmart within like a 50-mile radius.
Right.
And watch the cameras.
You would think. January, so the following month, he attempted to leave a cereal box in the bed of a truck at Home Depot. The guy came out of Home Depot, saw this fucking cereal box in the back of his truck, and threw it in the dumpster. He's like, "What the fuck is this? Like, why is someone throwing trash in my, whatever?" In that box, though, it had another, sorry, I got lost. Sorry. No, it didn't have a license in there. But the box was found in the trash later because the police were kind of like, what the fuck is going on? They were kind of like trying to investigate who was dropping off these packages at this time and trying to look at surveillance footage. So, because nobody found this cereal box and it was thrown in the trash, he sent a letter directly to the police department saying, "Hey, I put this box in the back of this truck. Why haven't you gotten it?" So they went to the Home Depot parking lot and looked in the trash can and they found the box. They also checked the surveillance tapes and saw a figure. Obviously, we're talking about the early 2000s, so the cameras aren't anywhere near where they are right now. They saw a figure walking, putting the cereal box in the back of the truck, and then going into a black Jeep Grand Cherokee.
Yes. Also, I told you about this a couple weeks ago. I think it's on Hulu or Prime, one of the two, where there's a fantastic, I think it's like a mockumentary of BTK, and this is a big part in it.
It is.
And that poor guy, at least how it was portrayed, whose truck that got thrown into, he's literally was just like, what the fuck, throw it in the trash, just like you said. But he is so lucky that he didn't get pegged for that. Yeah. And he immediately was like, hey, he went direct to the police. I had the cereal box. I thought it was so weird.
Right.
I can tell you where it is.
Yeah, because his DNA was on it.
All over it.
Exactly. You're right. Whenever they went and got that cereal box, his fingerprints were the only ones on that box. Yeah. And so they initially went to him and they were like, what the fuck?
But can you imagine what the story would have been if he wouldn't have, let's say he forgot that happened. Right. But then the police ended up finding the box and they'd be like, well, why didn't you turn this in? It's been all over the news. Did you think that was weird? Well, your DNA is all over it. That could have ended very badly for him. Luckily, he remembered. Yeah. And kind of not turn himself in, but
Right.
turn the account into the police.
Right. Well, and the surveillance footage helped him because
Yeah.
they saw BTK, who is Dennis Rader, get out of his
Yeah.
black Jeep Cherokee and put it in the truck and get right back in the car.
Which I'm pretty sure this documentary showed the actual footage of
Yeah.
that, and it is so hard. Like, all I
Yeah.
could really tell was it was a black vehicle.
Yeah,
like,
you
it was
can't
so
even tell
hard.
that it's a Jeep Cherokee.
No.
It's so hard to tell.
And the person, obviously, the more zoomed you get in, the more pixelated you get, and it was just awful footage.
It's just a
so,
figure. Yeah.
I mean, it's better than nothing, but
still. So the next month, February 2005, more postcards and more letters are sent to the news station and the police department. Another cereal box was left with another doll that was bound. And a lot of these letters to the police, BTK is asking in these letters, can I be traced if I send you everything on a floppy disk? And yes, we still had floppy disks at this time.
Yes.
In 2005. And for those of you that don't know what they are because you are too young, Google it.
they're
Maybe
a lot of fun.
they
They're
were
colorful.
Yes.
Like, they made these, like, little clicky noises.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Very satisfying
Yeah.
little pieces of plastic.
Absolutely. I loved them.
Yeah.
Loved them. So the police finally answered his question because he had written it multiple times on postcards and letters, and they answered his question by responding in the local newspaper, and and said it would be safe to use the floppy disk, but knowing damn well that it wouldn't be safe because they would be able to track him.
Which, again, like, I know we're not talking about someone of above average intelligence, but,
Like, come on.
like, in fact,
Technology.
I watched it with a friend, and he was like, they couldn't trace floppy disks. And I'm like, but the files, the files on the floppy disk,
They could trace.
could. Yeah,
Right.
it's kind of like if you have a CD
Yeah.
with, like, music on it.
You can't tell where it
trace
came
the
from.
CD, but if you, like,
Yeah.
dig into the files,
Yeah,
you
you can
absolutely
find that.
can.
Yeah.
And, like, I just feel like that's basic knowledge.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't feel like you have to be a genius to
No,
know that.
to know
but-
that. I know.
Like, why would he risk it?
I
mean, I'm
know.
glad he did. Thank
I
you
know.
for doing that. But
Right. So the next, or technically that same month, just a couple weeks later, he sent a purple floppy disk. Purple?
Purple?
To another TV station or news station in Wichita. As well as in this package were gold-colored necklaces. One with a very large, like, medallion on it. So it was one that he had stolen, or taken from one of his victims. And a photo of a cover of a book called Rules of Prey, which is a book about serial killers. So that was, again, a couple weeks later. Police found the metadata that was enclosed in this floppy disk from deleted files, particularly one deleted Word document, which contained the words Christ Lutheran Church, which was a local church in Wichita. And the document was last modified by a name Dennis. So a quick Google search. They Google searched the church and they Google searched Dennis and found
Boom.
Dennis Rader was the president of the church council, and he had the same vehicle licensed to him. So the police decide to drive by his house one day, and boom, they see a black Jeep Cherokee in the driveway.
That's gotta be the greatest feeling in the world.
Now, although it was circumstantial, there was no evidence connecting him to any crime. So they got
How is the floppy disk not enough?
evidence. Well,
Yeah.
because it's hearsay. Anyone can say that they committed a murder, but there's no factual evidence.
But he had, like, the
connecting them.
jewelry.
Well, they hadn't searched his house yet.
Oh, okay.
They just can't go and arrest him because he
But
turned
then
in a floppy disk.
But with the floppy disk, didn't he send in jewelry?
Yes, he did have jewelry.
So it's like,
But at the time, I think what I remember reading, it was from one of his victims, but the police didn't know that. They were like, why am I getting this fucking necklace?
Okay, got it. Because
Yeah.
there's no DNA on it.
Exactly.
Got
There's
it.
no
Okay,
DNA.
that makes
Like,
sense.
why is this necklace part of this package?
Got it.
Right? So, police obtained a search warrant. This is so interesting. I don't know if you know this. But police obtained a search warrant to a pap smear that his daughter had gotten at a local clinic. The DNA showed that his daughter's DNA was a familial match of a DNA sample that was pulling from one of the victims from underneath their nails.
Oh my God.
Yes.
That is disgusting and fascinating.
Genius. Yeah.
Wow.
A freaking pap smear. So, FYI, ladies,
they're saving that shit.
They are saving that pap smear DNA. Yeah, which is sick. I know.
Gross.
So, because there was a familial match, they were able to arrest Dennis.
Wow.
I know. So, February 25th, so just 10 days later, he was arrested driving near his home. The officer said, quoted, "Mr. Rader, do you know why you're going downtown?" And he said, "Oh, I have suspicions why."
Well, it's one of three things.
Well, yeah, okay. Which murder do you want me for?
Yeah, exactly.
Who did I torture now? Who did I kill this time? Like,
What if he was like, yeah, I have this speeding ticket I didn't pay off. I knew I had a warrant. Like,
yeah.
oh
They're like,
my God.
no. I said torture, by the way.
Oh.
So the detectives searched Dennis's home, his work, his church. They seized a lot of evidence, including, some of the pieces, the garments that he took from the victims or other little things here and there. The following morning, the police chief, said, bottom line, BTK is arrested. That's all that matters. Not going to answer any questions. He's fucking arrested. Like, leave me alone. Let us do our work. Let us do the investigation. 3 days later, literally, this is fucking wild. Only 3 days later, he was charged with 10 counts of first-degree murder.
Whoa.
10 counts. March 1, Dennis had a $10 million bail set and only a public defender. May 3rd, sorry, that was May 1, not March 1. May 1. Now, March 3rd, God, I can't talk.
No, other way.
May 3rd, champagne's hitting me. May 3rd, the judge entered a not guilty plea, on the behalf of Dennis. He was initially saying that, he didn't do it. However, the following month, June 27th, he changed his plea to guilty, and he described all 10 murders in detail with zero emotion.
Jesus.
Yeah. It is said, too, from the defense attorneys that a lot of his attorneys, too, or public defenders, had to walk out of the room occasionally while he is explaining the heinous, torturing acts that he did to his victims.
Yeah.
Which is just wild. Couple weeks later, July 15th, Dennis's wife Paula was granted an emergency divorce.
Thank God.
I know. She didn't really talk a lot about him or about any of this, even after the fact. The kids more so did. One of his brothers did. His mom did, and we'll talk a little bit about that. The following month, August 18th, at sentencing, the victims' families made statements. It said that Dennis apologized by a rambling 30-minute speech, and the prosecutor attorney, from what I read, I don't know if this is true, but I hope it's true. He stood up and he clapped, and he said, "You should get an Academy Award for that speech," because it was just fucking terrible and no emotion.
Well, and if I'm remembering it right, at least from the mockumentary, it's like it was almost like he was bragging through the whole thing.
Yeah, he was.
And, like, explaining himself.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it was just a bunch of rambling.
Yeah.
And so fucking long.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. He was sentenced to 10 consecutive life sentences with a minimum of 175 years. He's still alive today in El Dorado Correction Facility, and he is in solitary confinement. So he gets 1 hour of exercise a day and 3 showers a week. But in 2006, the next year, due to good behavior, because he's a good boy, he got access to TV, radio, books, and magazines. So, wow.
Yeah, I'm sure he went through a major reformation.
Right.
Like, good behavior after you've murdered people? What does that even mean?
And only being there for not even, like, a year.
And, like, I understand you can get into trouble in prison, but it's like, but after you've murdered 10 people, what exactly do you consider good behavior?
Right.
Like, not murdering people?
Yeah, not
He's
getting
in jail.
Like, yeah. I know. You know, as we know, a lot of, like, movies and shows have been written from this story, particularly if you've seen Mindhunter, there's a couple of episodes about him where he's an ADT installer and all that, which is kind of crazy. Stephen King even wrote a book and a film called A Good Marriage, which talks about Dennis Rader, literally everything about Dennis Rader. There's a couple of shows like Criminal Minds, Law and Order SVU, you know, that talk about him and portray, you know, the actors as him. And, you know, many other movies and shows are written off of him. I'm not saying that it's a good thing, but...
No, but they're fascinating. There's some really, really interesting ones.
Very fascinating. Yeah, very fascinating. Want to talk a little bit about, like, after getting, you know, or after him being in prison for a while, because people are just interested, you know? So his daughter, Carrie, did an interview with 2020, and she also wrote a book called A Serial Killer's Daughter, My Story of Faith, Love, and Overcoming. After she did this interview with 2020, like, talking about her life and talking about her dad and talking about how, you know, they found out and everything, which is actually kind of fucked up. So she was like 26 or 27 at the time when her father was arrested. An FBI agent came to her house, banged on her door, and said, "Are you so-and-so?" And she said, "Yeah." And she said, "Do you know who BTK is?" And she said, like, the murderer, like the serial killer from the 70s? And he's like, "Yeah, it's your dad."
Oh.
She's like, "What?"
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awful.
That is awful. And she's like, "Wait, what?" He's like, "Yeah, it's your dad. We have your dad, Dennis Rader, in custody right now. We need you to come with us."
Oh my God.
Like,
I would have been like, whoa, you can...
Wait a second.
Lawyer. Take your shoes off at the door.
Yeah. And check your attitude and come back and knock on my door and act like a normal fucking human being.
Yeah.
Like,
what the heck?
Can you imagine? Yeah, messed up. So, but she, you know, was in this interview, and Dennis, obviously, because he was a good boy and he got privileges, he was able to watch the interview on 2020, and he read her book. He wrote a letter to 2020, though, and it was a very long, rambling letter. It had to be like 5+ pages long. And 2020 says, like, quotes, he said in the letter, throughout the letter, "I think this will help her deal with a deep cut wound and be able to tell others her story." He also said, "You may love and live," which I thought that was kind of weird.
Oh, that's where we get live, laugh, love.
Right, from BTK. Yeah. He also said a quota, which I thought was kind of crazy, "A wolf in sheep's clothing." Like, apparently he said that many times. Okay. He also said that he had chosen and been planning on his 11th victim, and he wanted to call her his retirement victim because he was just getting too old to even think about killing, wanted to stay BTK and wanted to remain BTK and get the, you know, like the publicity of it, but didn't want to actually act on it. And here's where he said that he had been possessed by 2 demons, Batter being the first demon and Factor X being the second
Batter
demon.
is like the name?
Yeah.
Oh.
The names of the demons were Batter and then Factor X. And he said anytime he committed these terrible crimes and, you know, the vicious activities, including the torture, it was because of them. They were possessing him.
Okay. Whatever.
Dennis's mom and brother were shocked, as well as the entire family, to hear that Dennis was BTK. They said, quoted the brother, Jeff said, "I don't think my brother is BTK. But if he is, that's the truth. And let the truth be known. And may God have mercy on his soul."
May God not have mercy on his soul. I hope he rots in hell.
I know. And then I'm going to end the story with Dr. Leary, the psychiatrist, again, who interviewed him for 6 years in prison. This is wild, and it's a long quote. But he said, he is also narcissistic. The very, very strong need to be recognized. He was upset that they didn't find him and recognize him and give him the credit in the press for what he did, even though they hadn't identified him. But he was really thirsty for that kind of publicity of sorts. He also said, this is outside of his quote, he also said, the truth of what caused Dennis to become BTK is a mystery, and we will never fully know. Again, talked with Dennis for 6 years. He said, quoted, I don't think he told me everything, and I don't think he always told me the truth. But I think I got Rader pretty well, meaning he knows him pretty well. He also said, it had to have been in the family, or it could have been an uncle, or even an aunt. What makes me think so is this frequency of cruel behavior. You could be subjected to cruel behavior once or twice or maybe even 3 times. But if it is sustained on a regular basis, then they end up engaging and incorporating into your behavior and into that repertoire these behaviors more permanently, and especially in such an early age. So something awful happened here, and we still don't know. It's a puzzle, and it always will be.
Shit. Well, that was going to kind of be my thing, is he wanted so badly for people to know his story and know who he was that it's kind of shocking that he hasn't told anyone what happened to him or like why he is this way, or even made up a lie about like being abused or whatever as a kid.
Yeah, and you know, in interviews he says, I was never molested. I was never abused. My family is great. It's like, well, what the fuck happened? And it kind of goes back to like Richard Ramirez, you know, that psychiatrist said he was made to be a serial killer. He wasn't
There was
born.
like no chance.
Yeah, he wasn't born. Was Dennis just like born to be this way? Like, it's just weird. There's a $1 million question. Yeah, $1 million question is why?
Wow.
Why?
Crazy.
Yeah, so that is the story of BTK, kids.
Wow.
I know. Wild, huh?
It's insane. And again, we go back, we always make jokes about the 70s, but what happened?
What the fuck happened in the 70s?
What was happening?
Yeah, what was in the water? Were they like pumping the water full of like fluoride and mercury, or what the fuck?
And what's crazy to me is like it took until the 21st century basically for us to start discussing mental health, even though the 70s were kind of the time of like spirituality. I feel like mental health can play into that, like taking care of your mind and your body and all of this. So I'm like, why were people in the 70s like exploring the mental health aspect of life? It's almost like they completely ignored it.
Well, I think they completely ignored it. I just don't think that it was like such a big thing until after all these serial killers happened. They're like, whoa, wait a second. People are fucked up.
Yeah, we should start looking at people's brains.
We need to see what the fuck's going on here.
Yeah.
Oh, psychiatrists? Is that what you do? Is that what you do? Okay,
you literally study
to get
the brain.
to work. Get to work right now.
Like, and also make up for the past 100 years of what we've ignored.
Fucking A. Yeah, it's wild, man.
Jeez, wow. Such a good one.
It is a good one. It's a classic.
Well, guys, thanks for tuning in.
Yes.
We'll start with Patreon. Yes. I just made like 3 back-to-back rapid posts on our Patreon today. Asking you guys questions, getting caught up on the changes of everything. So go to our website, somethingsinisterpodcast.com. There's a link to our Patreon.
Yes.
You can subscribe and answer questions, or you can make like a $1 donation and still have access to like all the polls and stuff that we do and some behind the scenes pictures and whatnot.
You should do it.
Go check it out.
Yeah, and check up our continued sponsor, ColorUpCo.com, ColorUp CBD, for organic and natural skincare, dog supplements, all the CBD needs that you need. Use code SINISTER20 to get 20% off of your order.
Oh, yeah. And then we will see you for our Aries.
Woo!
We're moving into Aries, which is the best zodiac, in my opinion.
Taurus.
So,
Taurus is the best.
So we'll see you next week for our first Aries serial killer.
It's basically her spirit animal, but whatever. Anyway.
Wait, the serial killer or the Aries?
Serial killer.
Oh, okay, got it.
Stay sinister, y'all.
Bye.